Hey guys, yeah, sorry about the delayed start. I had to get the stream ready, and then I didn't realize there was going to be some news today. Then I had to redo the stream again so we could go through the news. Because all this news is news for me. So as much as I want to get onto the gaming, I want to find out what's going on with the latest developments. So I thought I may as well share that experience with you guys, or rather have you guys share your information with me, because I just woke up, so I don't know anything. I'm just about to find out. So if you guys, I find it really helpful when you guys sort of tell me what's going on, fill in the gaps in my knowledge, as it were. Hey everyone, Andrew, Tobias, Inquisitor Chase, Thorgrim, Prash, Noxious Ghoul, Evil Bearchin, Liz, Variable Line, Andrew, Tobias. So we've got this new blog. Should chuck a link to it in the chat here. New CA blog. All right, cool. Put a link in the chat there, so anyone who's not not onto it already can check that out. I should probably put it in the description as well. I guess that makes sense. Cool. I think we're all up to date. So I'm just going to quickly read through the notes and comment as we go, and then maybe I'll do a second run through, and then we'll get onto the today's campaign, which is going to be Belagar and Ironhammer. So Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empire's race updates. This is honestly like the stuff that excites me the most about the update. Like, quite often when they bring out a DLC, like, I actually am more interested in the like old world updates to the existing races than I am to the new DLC. Although in this case, I'm pretty excited about the DLC as well. But yeah. Anyway, this week we're taking a closer look at some of the most significant race updates you'll experience come this August when the Immortal Empire's beta finally arrives. Specifically to the vampire counts, Lizardmen, Dark Elves, and Norsca. I thought Norsca might get an update, but I wasn't sure. Before we get into those juicy details, it's important to recognize that importing races from Total War Warhammer 1 and 2 into Immortal Empires is no simple task. It's far more complex than a simple copy and paste. Warhammer 3 introduced significant updates to the series in the form of new mechanics, overhauled game systems, and a host of new foes to face, meaning that many races required substantial adaptations to survive in a fresh new world of war and politics. As such, while these updates won't be quite to the same scale as what you see with the Warriors of Chaos, they will nonetheless evolve their playstyles in important and meaningful ways. Okay, so first up with the vampire counts. Got a beautiful graphic there with a Empire Wizard. Is that Gelt, or is that just... I think that's actually Gelt, not just any Empire Wizard. Fighting Manfred on his dragon, or on his zombie dragon. Everyone's favourite bloodsuckers were in a difficult place coming out of Warhammer 2, mainly relying on devastating two-punch combo of free skeleton armies and the evisceration of their enemies with winds of death. While this is a real power trip at times, it did eventually get a bit dry. On top of that, changes to systems like Winds of Magic in Warhammer 3 have a heavy impact on the race, so the team spent some time enhancing them in ways to help them stay fresh. So the headline is, free skeletons are gone, okay? You'll still have ways to make them dirt cheap, but not to the same extent as before. We know this is a big change, one that might disappoint some people, but it not only distorted the Vampire Counts gameplay too much, but made much of the roster obsolete, particularly in conjunction with the reduced supply line penalties in Warhammer 3. I kind of agree. Although this, it's sort of like the skeleton, I don't know, it's like the vampires were really screwed beforehand, and the free skeletons was kind of like a band-aid fix that kind of made them work, but it was very like band-aidy and slapdash, you know what I mean? I feel like, and I think that it was good that they got rid of that, like, sort of, I don't know what you call it, very one-dimensional kind of a fix, and have hopefully gone for a better one. To make up for this loss, we made a whole host of other changes that we hope will be more than make amends for it. Here's a look at some of the key changes. Across the board, balances changed to the roster, leadership increases to most units, adjustments to ethereal units, and ability to recruit Mournguls What the fuck? You can get Morngulls in the vampire accounts now. So that's actually pretty cool. So they've got an extra hero unit. I wonder, I imagine they're still going to only have 4 like hero types as far as hero cap goes. Then I imagine they're not going to give them a 5th hero cap. So another like 100 cap for Morngulls. I imagine the Morngulls will take up the place of one of the others. Maybe Morngulls will be recruited in the same slot as Banshees because they're both kind of like ghost type things. Don't know. Yeah, all the other, so leadership increase. Yeah, we already saw this with the battle update. Some of the partners had commented on this. There was like across the board for like every single vampire count unit, there's like an increase of 10 to 20 to their leadership. So their leadership's like a lot higher. They don't what do you call it? Get smashed. Oh, Mongol Haunters are the heroes. Normal Mongols are trash. Oh, so Mongols are the unit. Sorry. So yes, just rewind that what I just said before. They're going to be able to recruit Mongols, which is a unit, not a hero. So okay, never mind. That's not very exciting. But cool. I guess they get an extra unit. It's cool that they're adding units as well where they can. Adjustments to ethereal units. They're reducing the physical resist of ethereal from 75 down to 50, but they're increasing their hit points, which is, you know, good and bad depending on how you want to use your ethereal units, I guess. Improvements to raised dead pools, which will now offer better units by default and scale up with vampiric attrition, making them less reliant on battle sites. Okay, so that's interesting. So battle sites will still, like, you still will create battle sites in order to create raised dead pools, but instead of just sort of creating them and then like just waiting for them to grow naturally or whatever, they're going to scale up with vampiric corruption. So you'll be able to, you know, if you go really hard on vampiric corruption, have heaps of corruption causing heroes and just swamping area and corruption, you might be able to get access to more powerful units faster. Like they said, they'll offer better units by default, so just before they sort of scale up, and then they'll scale up maybe faster as well. Reshuffle of recruitment buildings, with many units now available earlier and more easily. Revamp tech tree, skill tree, bloodline effects to give each race access to powerful new effects, such as increased healing caps and extra winds of magic. That's really cool. That's something I actually wanted ever since Warhammer 1, was to be able to have increased healing caps for certain units or for certain races. Because yeah, they brought in the healing caps sort of specifically for the vampire counts, I think, because they were getting infinite healing, you know, and they brought in the caps specifically to them. But then I felt like, you know, the vampire counts, especially for their zombies and skeletons, especially for like zombies and stuff like that, you know, like you feel like they should have more healing cap, you know. And another one where I think they should have more healing cap is trolls. I think that stuff like trolls that have like innate healing and that kind of like just mentally, like you think trolls should just be able to keep fucking regenerating from anything, like, you know, a troll hand should just slowly regenerate back into a full troll, you know, shit like that. I feel like maybe certain units in other factions should also get that. So that's interesting that they've got increased healing caps, whether that's faction wide or it's like a tech tree unlock or whatever. The fact that they've decided to give different healing caps to different groups at all, kind of maybe that opens up stuff. So that's interesting. I think overall the adjustment to ethereal seems like it's probably going to be a nerf, but it's a nerf. The thing is, it might seem like a nerf compared to what they were like in Warhammer 2, but if they didn't change them, it would have been a worse nerf, you know, because of the Warhammer 3. Because in Warhammer 3, there's a lot more magic damage, which would just completely negate the 75% physical resist to ethereal. So they would have just been dead in the water versus the demon factions and stuff like that. And also the healing, which used to be flat rate healing, which used to work really good on low HP ethereal. Now the healing's all percentage based, which would work really badly on low HP ethereal. So, you know, although like ethereal units might feel overall a bit weaker than they did in Warhammer 2, maybe, I don't know, maybe not, but it's not like they nerfed them intentionally. It's like they tried to make them not be as nerfed as they would otherwise have been if they didn't change them, you know. So it wasn't like CA nerfed them. CA buffed them as best they could to try to make them, you know, good still in Warhammer 3 basically. But yeah, they may end up being a bit weaker, I don't know. For individual lords, we've already highlighted some of the changes coming to the undead power. A couple, Vlad and Isabella von Carstein in our dedicated faction blog, but don't worry, Manfred and the Necromancer lords will have their time in the sun too. Manfred and the Necromancer lords. Who are the Necromancer lords? As in just generic Necromancer lords? Oh, anyway, Manfred's moved to the Southlands where he seeks unholy books of Nagash. As the most magically gifted of the vampire lords, he also receives increased magic reserves, and his Master of the Black Arts ability now boosts his spell mastery by 25%. That's interesting. So, 100 is supposed to be the maximum for magic reserves, right? So, what does that mean? Are they going to give him like 120%? 120 magic reserve? Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. Like, or maybe they just mean, when heroes naturally get like plus 10% or minus 10%, depending on if they're in a good wins place. Maybe they just mean they're going to make him get his wins back faster or something, which would be really shit. But if they mean they actually give him a cap above 100, that's pretty interesting. Increased magic reserve is not spell intensity. No, that's a magic reserve, different thing. To complement his new starting position in the Haunted Forest, Hermann Gorst now starts the campaign mounted on his corpse cart and can acquire skills that enhance his aura abilities, granting powerful faction-wide buffs to zombies. If you want to drown the world in rotting flesh while watching from the back of your sweet ride, he's the legendary lord for you. Okay, that sounds cool. And not that, even Gorst is not really a very popular lord, thematically or anything. He's just a nobody, basically, in Warhammer lore, so no one really knows about him or cares about him, really, historically. But in the game, he's got a bit of a specific sort of theme and vibe to him, which is his sort of corpse cart aura thing, and also, having his zombies, be tougher, I guess. Seems like they're leaning into that more and making him more unique, which is cool. Not to be outdone by this young upstart, Kemmler has also upped his game. His Best Bud Corel will now be a permanent summon by default, while Kemmler's skill tree serves to supercharge Corel's combat stats. Okay, so basically they're just changing Corel so that you don't have to put a skill point into making him last forever. But yeah. Skeletons are not free anymore, but how about zombies? Are those still free? Yeah, I don't know, actually. It doesn't say. That'd be good, though. I think zombies should be free, because they are literally fucking terrible, they basically almost have no value. So I feel like it'd be pretty, thematic and also kind of useful if they did. Hey, Bearings. There you go. We're about to get to Lizardmen now, so I'll tell you. I don't get why Corel isn't just a legendary lord, a legendary hero. Yeah, I don't know. Because they had legendary heroes before. I mean, they didn't have legendary heroes before when they brought out Corel, so they were still trying to figuring it out or whatever. But now they've got legendary heroes, so yeah, why not just make him a legendary hero? I guess it's because they already built all of that interface for him, to make him a summon and to be able to buff him and all that shit. So it's yeah. Maybe they didn't want to waste that effort that they've done, and they still wanted to, because it's an interesting, different mechanic from having a legendary hero. I can only speculate. I imagine that's why, basically, because they already created him the way he is, so they may as well leave him the way he is. But yeah, I think for most people, if they just made Corel a legendary hero, and you could then level him up, choose skill points, put items on him, anybody who cares about Corel and loves Corel would obviously love Corel heaps more if he was an actual character that you could equip and level up. So yeah, I mean, maybe they'll come around to that in the end and realize that he would just be straight objectively better if he was just a hero instead of a summon. But yeah, who knows? We know that Lizardmen and update together might generate some excitement, so we'll get the bad news out of the way first. The geomatic web is still pretty much the same, other than a few adjustments to reward you for fulfilling the great plan. We fully recognize that it's ripe for a more substantial update and hope to find an opportunity to do so in the future. Okay, so no plans to yet, but they're recognizing that it does need an update. With that said, there's still a load of other changes for our scaly friend. We'll start with Humble Skinks. As has long been requested, Henneman now unlocks regiments of renown units by leveling up and will be able to use his sacrificial pyramid to generate extra blessed spawning units. His chameleonic comrade, Oxiodal, be receiving new missions to hunt down and eliminate the new demonic enemies who recently arrived on the Immortal Empire's map. And his mission durations will now scale with campaign difficulty, making it harder to thwart chaos if you choose to play at harder levels. Okay. Not sure exactly how that's going to manifest. As a summon, he's an extra unit on the field. Yeah, well, yeah, that's right. Krell does give you an extra unit, gives you 21 versus 20. When I was saying Krell's objectively better, I didn't mean he's objectively more powerful. I meant in terms of like people's enjoyment of the game and, you know, value that people are going to perceive from Krell as a character. Like if they just made him a legendary hero, I feel, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like if they just made him a legendary hero that you could level up and equip with items, people would just flat out like it better. Like everyone that cares about Krell would like it better, and everyone who doesn't care about Krell would continue not playing Kemmler and not giving a shit, you know? Like I don't think there's anyone who would be like, oh no, he's a legendary hero, I wish he was a summonable hero again, you know? Yeah. You know, it's like one less unit of skeletons you can have, and then you can equip items on him, you know? Where are we up to? The Stalwart Saurus will also benefit from changes to help them take on the Dominic. Oh wait, did I miss something? Whatever. The Stalwart Saurus will also benefit from changes to help them take on the demonic hordes. Their innate primal instincts ability kicks in earlier, granting them the greater bonuses and no longer triggering their rampage. Oh, okay. So primal instincts does not trigger rampage. Both Saurus characters also get revamped Lord and faction effects to account for this, in addition to helping develop their own playstyles. So I'm not sure if it's saying they just don't get rampage at all, or they just like get rampage separately from like primal instincts. So they're still going to get rampage, but like when the primal instincts is going to come earlier, but the rampage is not going to come earlier. The rampage is still going to happen as normal, or maybe they just don't get rampage at all. I'm not too clear on what that's saying there. There you go, Benji. Rockguard will focus on creating a coterie of elite Saurus characters with major buffs for Old Bloods and Scar veterans, while Golrak will enjoy new effects that lean into his defensive nature, while his unique right no longer makes Saurus unbreakable, it now grants them barrier, as well as immunity to hostile weapon effects like poison, a perfect boon for taking on a certain pestilential rodent. That's really cool. That's really cool. Golrak now, his what do you call it? His right now grants Saurus barrier, like the Zeech barrier. So I feel like that's a really cool use of the barrier mechanic, and like the Lizardmen with their sort of like technology style magic. The barrier seems really kind of thematic or whatever to like that would go with them, you know. Yeah, and it's just cool like to see them using the different mechanics and in different factions and stuff like that. Yeah, like seeing that, like seeing Golrak getting like this right that gives his Saurus barrier. That seems like such a cool thing that, you know, you kind of wish all of the Lizardmen lords got stuff like that, you know, and that he got access to more access to barrier than just through his right or whatever. But yeah, as the premier magic wielders of the setting, the Slan, including Lord Crook, are getting skill tweaks to fit with the new magic system, while gaining access to powerful effects like barrier and increase. Oh, here we go. Awesome. That's exactly what I was asking for. So yeah, the Slan are getting access to barrier, increases their wind of magic capacity. On top of that, Mazdamundi will also receive a whopping plus 50% increase to range to all of his spells. Finally, Nakai will enjoy a variety of balance changes, including tech tree updates to boost his economy, as well as a new improved benefits upon constructing temples to the old ones. He'll also benefit from some fundamental improvements to diplomacy that were introduced in Warhammer 3, notably improvements to how the AI interacts with vassal factions. So what, I don't really know what Nakai's mechanics are. What is temples to the old ones? Is that like, can he actually build like structures at some point? Or is that like, yeah, what, I don't know what the Temple of the Old Ones is for Nakai. But I was wondering, as soon as I saw the Chaos Warrior mechanics, I was wondering if they were going to give Nakai some similar mechanics like that, where he can maybe like build capital cities around the place and then just fill in the gaps in between his capital cities with his vassal. But yeah, I'm not sure. Excuse me. Okay, Dark Elves. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't give a shit. I don't want to play Nakai anyway, so I don't care, you know. But I'm sure there's other people out there that would be interested in those changes, so yeah, I'll be interested to see what that means. Dark Elves. All right, what are they going to do to my precious Dark Elves? Next, let's turn to the Druki, who, in addition to being in a prime position to benefit from some of the new sea lane mechanics, have seen big changes to their slaves mechanic. Oh no. Previously, this was a feature that resulted in insane late-game economic performance with relatively little interaction from the player. What's wrong with that? Slaves are now considered a faction-level resource rather than something you stow in a province. Slaves can now be spent at numerous buildings to generate income or invested in 3 powerful slave dictats to benefit a specific province. For a long while, Druki had a complicated relationship. So, oh wait, before we move on, I don't know if I don't really get this, because it said like, it's saying like previously it resulted in late game economic performance with relatively little interaction with the player. And like, so they've added this like that you can use slaves kind of like as a separate form of currency. You can maybe spent at different buildings to generate income or invested in 3 powerful slave dictats, which I'm guessing these slave dictats are the same kind of mechanic that Slaanesh uses on their settlements, where you can have like one that gives them, you know, public order or whatever, one that gives them increased growth, and one that gives them increased what do you call that, replenishment or whatever. But like, I don't know, like here they're saying like, you know, with relatively little interaction from the player, and while they did add on this extra mechanic where you can spend it as resources, they took away the ability to manage how many slaves are in your different provinces. You know, there was that whole interface where you could like stop putting slaves into this place and start putting more slaves into that place, and like I mean, I know you don't really interact with it that much, but I kind of enjoyed that sometimes, like thinking, oh, this place is going to be my slave stronghold where I'm going to build up economically and I'm going to put all my slaves there to, you know, enhance it or whatever. And this place is a frontier place that I'm probably going to lose anyway, so I won't let any slaves go there. And, you know, so they've like, do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like they, like in this sentence, with this sentence here, they're sort of saying that they wanted to make it more interaction, but then they've taken away like a heap of the interaction by making it a faction-wide thing instead of something you stow in a province. So yeah, I don't know. Even apart from whether this new thing is more or less powerful than the old thing, like I kind of feel like it's like, you know, like they've made it more technical, but they've also dumbed it down at the same time. So it's like a net about the same. It's about the same dumbed downness, you know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I have to see how it plays out, but yeah, I don't know. I'm cautious about that one. But anyway, yeah. But I mean, the idea of being able to spend slaves to get different advantages and stuff, that sounds sort of interesting. For a long while, Druki had a complicated relationship with Chaos, so the influx of demonic factions has led to some notable changes. Marathi now gets unique interactions with Slaanesh corruption and can even recruit demonettes, while Malice's possession ability now allows for more frequent use of Zarkan and interacts differently with the new corruption types. Okay. I definitely want to know more about this. We'd been postulating that Marathi would definitely get some sort of like demon recruitment or something, because Sigvald and stuff had, you know, been getting Slaanesh stuff, even though they're in Warriors of Chaos. But yeah, so I'm really interested to know what this unique interactions with Chaos corruption, with Slaanesh corruption are. Yeah, what could interactions be? I mean, because like the obvious interaction that she already has now is that when you have Slaanesh corruption, you'll get plus public order, and you know, like if you just change it, like currently it's Chaos corruption, but you change it in Warhammer 3 to be like Slaanesh corruption. So the current interaction that Marathi has is that she causes Chaos corruption instead of causing untainted like normal elves. So, you know, if we just assume that she's going to now cause Slaanesh corruption instead of untainted, and Slaanesh corruption is going to be her like natural corruption, yeah, is that what's going down? The one thing I noticed, one thing I didn't like about Marathi's interaction with Chaos Corruption is that like basically it made it as though Chaos Corruption was her natural thing, and if the place was highly Chaos Corrupted, then you'd have more public order and everything would be good, and if it was low Chaos Corruption, then you'd have less, less good, basically. But I don't know if that really reflects how she's meant to be in the lore. Like, I feel like, either having Slanesh corruption or having untainted corruption, either of those would still be quite normal and fine for Marathi and her followers, like maybe not her demonette followers, but like her, her other followers. But yeah, I'm not too sure. We're not sure what they mean by that. We'll have to stay tuned. Last of all, Rakath can now capture and tame a host of new beasts, including saber tusks and feral bears. Oh yeah, feral bears are a new unit that are just coming in with the Immortal Empires. I don't think we can get feral bears currently in the Kislev roster, but yeah, we're going to be able to soon. It's pretty cool. Rakath even got an in-depth spotlight in our recent Q&A with the development team. Oh, what the fuck? Is that a new Q&A? Oh, I'll check that out. I'll check that out after this, see if it's something new. Okay, Norsca. That's a good picture. Let's talk cold, angry, and primed to raid. Norsca had a somewhat tumultuous entry into the series with their unique ability to construct outposts instead of regular settlements, built on the foundation of the climate-locked occupations of Warhammer 1. This design did not make a graceful transition into Warhammer 2, where it was originally designed to grant them unparalleled flexibility and instead became their greatest weakness. So, if you take one thing home when you're done raiding these shores, it's the fact that Norsca is now a regular occupation faction with access to their complete building tree anywhere in the world. Well, that's a big one. There are additional smaller changes coming to freshen up the race. God, I hope they get a Black Ark type mechanic that allows them to attack from the sea. That's like 10 out of 10, the biggest thing I want for them. Devotion to the gods. Like before, players can dedicate the ruins of their enemies to one of the 4 gods in order to gain their favor, but there was also always a massive disparity between the rewards given. As such, we've evened things out a bit. Okay, full dedication to the crow no longer causes global plague. Rather, you'll be joined by Burble Smirk Spew Pit, an exalted great unclean one. Oh, that's awesome. Full dedication to the Hound no longer gives you access to the Iceforged Legion. Rather, you'll be joined by Kilgore Slaymaim, Exalted Hero of Khorne. Exalted Hero of Khorne. Oh, cool. So he's actually an Exalted Hero of Khorne, not a Greater Demon. You get a Greater Demon if you go for Nogor. All reward characters grant their army incredibly powerful boon that twists the battle profile to align closer with the Dark God's ideal forces. For example, Azric's forces enjoy access to barriers, magical weapons, global winds of magic generation benefits. Oh wow, that's crazy. Who's Azric? Is Azric the Zeichin? Yeah, Azric's the Zeich Greater Demon if you go full Zeich, right? So the whole army gets barrier. That's how sick is that? Imagine having like a full army of mammoths with barrier. The big chicken that we had before, yeah. I never go Zeich, so I never really tried him out. If you just had the terrifying realization that we didn't say where the Iceforged Legion went, don't worry, your favorite Hellcannon battery has become a regular regimen of renowns that unlocks once you reach the approval. Oh, cool. So like every faction now gets the Iceforged Legion. So that was cool because before it was like if you wanted to go for artillery, you had to go Khorne, whereas now you can get the artillery regardless of which faction you go, and they've sort of made these other factions a bit less. So every faction gets either a hero or a lord. So Nurgle and Zeich get a lord, and Slanesh gets a sorcerer hero, and Khorne gets a Khorne warrior type hero. So that's pretty cool. Being fully settled and capable of holding complete provinces all over the world, Norsca has a full set of commandments to enact over them and solidify their new holdings. Okay, awesome. Wine, furs, and everything in between, Norsca can now construct buildings to exploit almost all resources for local and global bonuses. Capital targets. With new forces of order come new cities to raise for unique benefits. Kurgan hordes have never taken Wojin, perhaps they only lacked a unifying iron fist. To tie us off, let's head off the question on everyone's mind. No, this is not the Norsca rework. These changes are about freeing Norsca from the shackles of their outposts and giving them a taste of the fresh new powers of the Dark Gods in Warhammer 3. Like the rest of the Immortal Empires is just the beginning, the foundation upon which to build and make future tweaks to the different factions. This is it for now. Check back for more updates on Immortal Empires, and be sure to join us August 23rd to see the changes for yourself. So August 23rd is when the Immortal Empires beta comes out. August 23rd is when the 4 Champions of Chaos DLC comes out, and August 23rd is when the Warriors of Chaos rework for Sigvald, Kolek, and Archeon comes out. So they've talked about this a few times at the moment, like recently, like how basically this isn't like a proper rework of any of the factions. This is just like doing what they kind of felt like they needed to as a spring clean to all the factions, just to get them ready for Warhammer 3 as a base level. It's not as big of a deal. None of these upgrades are as big of a deal as like a full DLC rework style upgrade. I still feel I like all these changes with Norsca. I think they're cool, but I think they're all like very minor. Apart from the thing with them being able to settle wherever, that's major. Like that's going to really change Norsca and make them good. Because one of the main things that sucks about Norsca is that they live in Norsca. Like Norsca's a shithole, right? Like them being able to just invade the Empire and just conquer the Empire and make that their new homeland, then all of a sudden they've got awesome settlements, they've got awesome defensibility, everything's awesome for them. So that's pretty major. Everything else is pretty much nothing, not nothing, but it's like not gonna like majorly change the flavor of your game and stuff, I wouldn't think. But yeah, the thing I think number one thing I think we need for Norsca, well, for me, the other thing I want for Norsca, sorry, not necessarily what we need, is just to be able to attack settlements from the sea, or like move from the sea to the land with less movement penalty than other races. Because I feel like that's like that whole like Viking raiding from the sea thing is central to their identity, and it's just a player fantasy that I always want to do when I play Norsca. I want to take to the sea. I want to be able to attack settlements from the sea with my long ships. I want to be able to like lightning raid from the water onto the land and then get away again on the water. So yeah, somebody suggested this the other day. Like if they had, normally when you move from water onto land, I think you lose like 25% or 50% of your movement or something. So so normally what happens is you notice that your character just loses all their movement, because if they had less than 50% left, they'll just lose it all. But if Norsca maybe had that, they lose only 10% of their movement when they come ashore, or they lose no movement or something. That'd be really cool and thematic, and would give them a totally different gameplay style. I think that would be really awesome. But anyway, Norsca are not really Vikings. They just look like Vikings. Yeah. No, I know they're not really Vikings, but I'm not talking about like Vikings. I'm talking about Norscans. Like in the Norse, like in the lore, like the Norscans do like sea raids and stuff like that, right? It's not just like they don't only just do those massive chaos invasions and stuff. Blah blah blah. So okay, there's also this blog post. I mean, this did we already watch this? Oh right, this is the same one we watched the other day. It's just they're just linking to a certain part where they talked about it.
Never seen ever.
Yeah, definitely. That guy loves to go and raid and pillage and get all the different creatures under his wing. So expect to see things like feral bears.
We love you, Rich and Mitch.
Feral wyverns, saber tusks. I think a whole bunch of different stuff, basically content to do with Warhammer 3 for him to add to his army. But one that we aren't doing, in case people are going to ask later down the road, the elemental bear. No, that still stays at Kislev.
Good. So it should. Do you think every old race will get a rework of similar scale? Hey Danfish. Yeah, I mean these are just sort of fairly minor. Oh, you mean like now? No. Like I think that there's sort of a few different levels. There's like there's the major kind of like major update level, I guess, that some factions are getting, which is less than a proper DLC faction. So like I'd say Norsca's kind of in that group. Like they can now conquer settlements. A bunch of their heroes and things have changed and stuff like that, you know. And like Bella, you know, Volkmar getting the books of Nagash now, Manfred getting the books of Nagash now, you know. So some factions have gotten fairly major things there where they've actually gotten extra mechanics added in. Like all of these ones that mentioned, or that have been mentioned here, these guys have all got fairly substantial reworks, you know. But I don't think we're going to get one of these covering. Well, I mean, maybe it'd be pretty cool if we did get this for every single faction. Actually, there's no reason why they shouldn't. Like, why don't? Yeah, they should do that. Why don't they don't do that? But yeah, anyway, no, I think it's going to be all different levels, you know. So I think if they had it, like, just say I don't know, maybe like for me, I think Bretonnia is one of the factions that needs a rework the most. But like, just say they looked at Bretonnia and they're like, oh, Bretonnia is like good to go. They just go straight into Warhammer 3. They don't need any changes. They're going to be awesome, you know. Everything about them is just going to work perfectly in the Warhammer 3 situation, you know. Like then they'll just leave, they'll just port them straight in. They won't do anything with them, you know. So yeah, I don't think they're going to do the same level with each race. They're going to do whatever they think is needed, sort of for each race. But I think they've also sort of taken the opportunity to do some little bits that they thought would be fun, you know, or that would enhance, like. So on the one hand, they're doing stuff that they think is like required for the race to be viable in Warhammer 3. And on the other hand, they're like, oh, well, while we're fixing up this stuff, it would be easy to add in this other little bit that would be cool. We'll just chuck that in. Or here's something we've been wanting to fix about Lizardmen for a while. We'll just whack that in with this update since we're already updating them anyway, you know? So I feel like there's a little bit of that. There's a bit of, you know, there's a bit of like doing stuff they have to do. There's a bit of like doing stuff that they think that people would want them to do that would be fairly easy. And there's a bit of stuff of like things they've been planning on doing for a while, but they just hadn't got around, you know, like they probably like have a big list of stuff that they want to fix for Lizardmen. And next time they do a Lizardmen DLC, they'll do an update for Lizardmen and they'll put all those things in. But because they're doing this kind of like mini DLC for everyone, you know, they're just, like everyone's getting their little bit, even if they, you know, have little, you know, jobs that they wanted to get done on them or whatever. Dark Elves just got nerfed. Yeah, I feel like Dark Elves did kind of get nerfed, but I don't know. It's like we don't know how it's going to play out in the game, you know, because they're not telling us any of the levels or anything, you know. But yeah, with the Druki, that was pretty much it. That was it. With all they just said they changed the slave mechanic. That's the only change that they've really outlined for the Dark Elves. I don't know if anyone's noticed, like, anyone's been watching the partners that have been showcasing the Warhammer 3 factions in, the Immortal Empires factions in battles, whether the Dark Elves had many significant changes. I watched a tiny bit of one of Turin's battles yesterday, and he was just saying something along the lines of, like, most factions still kind of play the same way as they did before, with most of the same kind of stuff still working. Like he was saying, like Marathi double Manticore or whatever is still, you know, still the same, like it's still powerful for the same reasons, stuff like that. Like, yeah, like, not that I know much about the multiplayer meta, but yeah, I was talking about multiplayer. I was talking about units specifically. So yeah, I don't know if any of the units have changed, or because, like, that's the thing, we've only got the only information that we have so far is multiplayer, basically, like custom battle information about the units and stuff. So yeah, so although like most of the guys that are doing content about that are multiplayer focused, at the same time that content is multiplayer focused, you know, and like, so it's yeah, it's fine. I think the last thing CA should be doing now is nerfing factions and try to bring people back. Yeah, I think I agree with that, Rudo. I think, like, you know, like this thing here, previously this feature resulted in insane late game economic performance with relatively little interaction from the player, blah, blah, blah. Basically it's saying, yeah, we felt we needed to nerf this because it was too easy. But it's late game, you know? Late game. So late game is like, hey, thanks, Calvin. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, late game. So I'm not going to say no one cares about late game. That's not right. But like, late game is less important than early game because people play a lot less late game than they play early game. Like, early game is the part that is where is like, you know, like 90% of people's playtime is going to be in the first 50% of the game, you know, like up to, I don't know, turn 80 or something like that. But like late game is important, but I feel like half of that importance is for people that actually play a long time into late game and they enjoy that more administrative, like mass moving armies around the map rather than the zoomed in kind of visceral combat that features more in the early game. But yeah, it shifts gears, you know, and there's a late game experience that's different from the early game experience and has good things and bad things about it and blah blah. But like one of the good things about late game is that you get all the toys, right? You get all the cool stuff. That's the culmination of the player fantasy. Like in the early game, you're like, yeah, my heroes and my lords and my armies are getting stronger and I'm taking this territory that's going to unlock this powerful weapons and all this kind of stuff. So that in the late game, I'm going to have all this cool stuff and my unstoppable army is going to conquer the world and all that kind of shit, you know? And like, so part of that whole late game thing for me is like actually playing the late game, and we want improvements that are going to make the late game more interesting and stuff like that. But part of the late game is just the playing out of the player fantasy. Like once you get to that steamroll sort of part, there's not really any challenge anymore. It's just like you just enjoying how awesome you are now, you know what I mean? Which doesn't really last very long for me. I lose interest in that shit pretty quick. But like, I guess what I'm saying here is that, you know, they said in one of the other blogs, I think in this Q&A actually, that they were trying to concentrate on, I think Mitch said something about trying to extend the early game, I guess, or extend that early game feeling or whatever. Basically get people to play for longer, like for more turns, you know? And so I guess this is part of that. They're like, oh, we don't want the late game economy of the Dark Elves to just become, you know, too easy, basically, so it's boring and you don't feel like any threat on money or whatever. But at the same time, like part of the Dark Elf fantasy is having millions of slaves and being super fucking rich. You know what I mean? Like, so that's like, I don't want to like, I don't know. That's, I guess what I don't know if I should have said this in a quicker way or whatever, but I guess I'm saying like, yeah, I can see how you want to get rid of that overperforming late game economy to keep the challenge for longer. But at the same time, you want to keep that feeling of the powerful late game economy because that's part of the Dark Elf player fantasy of having millions of slaves and millions of gold and all that shit, you know? So you should, I hope that they make it so it still feels like you can still work towards and still attain that feeling, you know what I mean? The fun of the High Elves and the Dark Elves is the economic freedom. Yeah, I think so. Or at least the feeling of becoming rich, you know? Like, I don't know, you don't necessarily have to, like, becoming rich is not necessarily part of the player fantasy for every faction, but I think it definitely is for Dark Elves. You know, I can imagine Legend will not be too impressed with any of this. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's you know, it's whatever. I think it's fine. I mean, Dark Elves are one of the strongest factions in the game, so I think that any nerf to Dark Elves is not really going to be that punishing. You know what I mean? Like if they nerfed fucking Norsca or something, then it'd be like, fuck, we've already got nothing, you know? Don't take more shit away from us, you know what I mean? It'd be really bad. But with Dark Elves, it's like, Dark Elves are on top of the world. They can like fucking do anything. They can do heaps of shit, you know? Dark Elves can go 10 different directions and be dominant in all different areas, you know? So I think like, yeah, if they nerf the late game economy a little bit, you know, it'll probably be fine, you know? I don't think it's going to be bad. I'm just saying, yeah, I hope their economy doesn't become weak. You know, if their economy becomes weak, then they'll be badly overtuned. I think they should still have a really powerful late game economy. And they haven't said anything about the economy being really reduced. They've just said that the mechanic is going to be different, and now you're going to be able to spend them to get little different bonuses. So maybe it's like if you spend slaves in order to get bonus generate income, you're actually going to make more money than you did before. But now you're just going to have to choose to actually actively do it rather than just setting up all your slaves and then forgetting about it, you know? So yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes, I guess. I'll just have a quick read through. think content creators have led to this in a way by defining the optimized ways of playing, and if a faction always played the same way, it's a bad design. Well, I think content creators provide a focal point for the community. Like, you know, like just speaking for myself, like it's not like I invent all of the ways of optimizing stuff. It's just, you know, you guys basically tell me about it, and then I play it, and then I tell you back about it back again, and like it's like a feedback loop kind of thing. But I don't think I don't know if that's what you meant, but I don't think that the content creators make the exploits, you know what I mean? Like the exploits are there in the game, and the content creators and the community at large help the developers. Like, so the developers create a game, the developers create a mechanic, and they're like, oh, we expect that this mechanic will create this type of behavior in the players, and it will create this type of experience. And then we play it, and it doesn't create, it creates a totally different experience and doesn't do what they wanted. And then they're like, oh, that didn't fucking work, we better fix it. You know, like, but it's not like us pointing out that it's fucked is what makes it fucked, you know. It's just designed badly in the first place, you know. So yeah, I think it's all good. I think exploiting and stuff like that, and finding the best ways to play and all that kind of stuff is good, because it's like, I don't know, like I feel trapped by that optimization sometimes, you know, like when you know that there's a certain way that's completely dominant and so much better than any other way to play, and then sometimes it feels like it sort of magnetizes you towards that sort of play, and like if they actually nerf that, then you feel more free to explore other stuff, you know. So I don't know, I'm not necessarily against nerfs like altogether, like you know, I feel like sometimes nerfing something unnecessarily that was just fine, you know, is obviously feels bad. But I think like nerfing things that are totally fucked is okay, you know. Like I'd be really happy if they would fix every single movement bug in the game. Like I hate movement bugs, really. I enjoyed them a little bit when I first found them, but then as time's gone on, I've just tried to like just really don't like them at all, you know. But it doesn't bother me because just don't use it, you know what I mean? It's like, if you don't like movement bugs, just don't movement bug, you know. It's not something that really needs to be fixed, but I think it should be fixed, because it's just something that's just flat out broken, you know what I mean? It's not like it's not really an exploit, it's just a flat out a bug, you know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know, everyone's got their own position about what's fair and what's reasonable and what sort of exploits are good and that kind of stuff. They should not nerf stuff, and they should instead create new alternatives. No, I don't know about that, Weirdo. I think sometimes things need to be nerfed. Like if you've accidentally given some superpower ability to a faction that just doesn't represent anything about their lore or anything, you know, like I don't know, like Kislev to me, for example, a pretty grey sort of faction in the lore. Like they just like they live in this like grim area. They just get drunk on kvass all the time, and like, you know, just, I don't know, make dark jokes about fighting chaos and dying in the snow and shit, you know. And like but then if you just accidentally gave them something that made all Kislev units like super powerful, or like all Kislev archers super powerful or something, so that basically you'd just only ever recruit archers, then like they could like fix that by making all the Zargard super powerful, overpowered and ridiculous. But do you know what I mean? It would be out of balance with every other faction, and it would just not make any sense, and it'd be fucked, you know. So I think there's definitely at times when it's appropriate to just nerf shit that's wrong, but yeah, it's like, you know, you don't need to like necessarily nerf everything just because it's fun, you know. But yeah, like there's elemental bear. I don't know why the fuck they even need bears. Like I think a lot less bears would be good. We only got a few words describing the changes. We have no idea how it actually works on the gameplay, so no need to panic. Good, very good point, Mats. That's pretty much what I'm thinking as well. I think all this stuff, I guess my general kind of vibe about all of this is, you know, it looks great. You know, it looks great. I'm really happy to see that they're doing this level of attention to detail, I guess, with all the factions. You know, it's actually more than I sort of expected, and I'm really happy that they like I sort of honestly thought they were just gonna like just dump all the factions into Warhammer 3 and just see what happens and then just fix it, you know what I mean, as time goes on. But they're actually have put in a lot of effort to try to like fix up all the factions in advance so that they're going to work in Warhammer 3. I think it's totally doomed. Like it's going to be all totally fucked with it anyway. Like I think it's just going to be really not like a total mess, but I think there's going to be heaps of just stuff that's completely out of whack with different factions and stuff like that. That's my suspicion. But regardless of how much they try to balance it and fix everything in, you know, as soon as you add in like fucking 90 different factions or whatever it is into the game, there's just going to be different factions that are going to come out like on top, and they're going to get, you know, and other ones that are going to be really screwed over, and it's just how it's going to be, you know. So but I'm actually really impressed with this level of effort that they've gone to try to fix things up and stuff. There's nothing that really jumps out at me as particularly exciting. Like I'm not really like, you know, falling over myself to try out any of these new mechanics or anything. They're just all like, oh yeah, that's all cool stuff, seems like cool stuff, you know, all good. Vampire stuff interests you the most? Yeah, well, vampires and dark elves as factions interest me the most. I don't really care about lizardmen, just because I don't really like the faction that much. But I don't know, if they keep improving them and stuff, eventually maybe I might be a convert. I might start liking lizardmen. I mean, those changes for Krokkar, that he's gonna focus on buffing Saurus heroes and stuff, like that kind of perked my interest. Like, ooh, hero hammer, what's the on there? But yeah, I don't know. Excuse me. I might just get my next stream queued up. So yeah, I'm gonna end this stream now. I think we've pretty much covered most of the news stuff. I'm gonna end this stream now, and I'm gonna start a new stream of Belegar Ironhammer Dwarf campaign. I'm gonna probably continue talking about some of these changes and stuff like that in between the gameplay, but yeah, we'll switch over to that. I'm not sure if the automatic redirect will actually work, so I might have to manually do it. Did that work? Sorry, I don't know what happened to my other stream. Oh, there it is. Cool. Yeah, I'm going to try and set up a link. But just basically just click on this link. Here's a link to the stream. So this stream's going to be ending. Just click on that link to switch over to the new stream. I'm going to try and set up so it redirects you, but I don't think the redirect is going to actually work. So let's see how we go. Maybe. Seems like it is actually working. Maybe. All right, well, whatever. Anyway, I'm going to end this stream and we'll go over and start the new one. All right, thanks guys. I'll catch you soon.